The 20-year-old man accused of the murder of a sex worker has opted to remain in custody. Sifiso Mkhwanazi was arrested following the gruesome discovery of 6 bodies in various stages of decomposition in a central Johannesburg warehouse. Mkhwanazi abandoned bail in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court this morning. eNCA senior reporter Aviwe Mtila following developments, joining me now. Aviwe, thank you so much for joining us. So we know that at this point Mkhwanazi is only potentially linked to one murder, but there is the possibility that he may be linked to all 6 of the bodies that were found. Why did he decide to abandon bail this morning?
Well, Sally, it wasn't clear why he actually abandoned bail, but we do know that the matter now will be heard on the 7th of December. It's coincidental that you start with a story that talks about the DNA backlog, seeing that that's one of the bones of contention now, as the state says it's not done with the investigations at this stage, and they've actually asked for the postponement in order, saying that chief among the investigations is the DNA of the 5 other bodies. You do know at this stage they're only pursuing a premeditated murder case for one of those 6 bodies that were discovered in Johannesburg Central some 3 weeks ago. They say that they have video footage, CCTV footage that we do understand links Mkhwanazi, the 20-year-old, and also they have an eyewitness account from the security that we do understand is what they say now links him to the Schedule 6 offense. Hence, they now saying that they want to postpone in order then to get the DNA results back. But we do know then the matter will now be heard on the 7th of December. Mkhwanazi abandoning the bail there, and we do understand it was the 4th appearance, of course, Sally. After we do know the last appearance, we were told that there were those identity parades that were conducted. In fact, we spoke to 6 sex workers, in fact, that told us they were part of the ID parades, 5 of them managing to identify Mkhwanazi as the person that allegedly took some of these, what we now come to know as these missing sex workers that never came back. So they're saying they positively identified them as being that person they took him. In fact, Sally, just on the proceedings of today, I put together a little insert that I wanted to take a look at on what transpired today.
It's a short day in court at the Johannesburg Magistrate Court as Sifiso Mkhwanazi accused of premeditated murder of at least one of the 6 bodies discovered in Johannesburg Central some 3 weeks ago abandoned his bail application.
We are not informed as to why the accused person chose to abandon his bail application. The matter was set down for bail application proceedings, and as the state we were ready to proceed. We are still at the infant stages of the investigation process, so there's still lots of outstanding investigations. Amongst them, chief amongst them, is the DNA outcome.
The state must do their job, because as it is now, that one for DNA, I'm not happy about it. They must speed up the process, because this is a serious case.
Alright, engayifuni bail vele uzofuna bail ethu yaphi ngaphandle ngoba into ayenzile ayikho right at all. Kumanje ingane zabantu zishonile shingane ezincane, and into esifuna ukuyazi ukuthi why ebulala labantu, inhlose yakhe yini ngempela egcina abantu beze bebole, inhlose yakhe bekuyini, into nje esifuna ukuyazi kuphela.
The 20-year-old who's facing a Schedule 6 offense will be back at the Magistrate Court on the 7th of December as the matter has been postponed for further investigations. Aviwe Mtila, Johannesburg.
And you know, Aviwe, this is just one case of many linked to gender-based violence. We know, of course, what happened last week, where the DNA tests proved quite clearly that the men arrested in connection with the Krugersdorp gang rapes had no genetic or no DNA link to that crime. So crucial that we hear from the police minister saying that they are going to be clearing that backlog by January. Tomorrow and Wednesday, it's a very important gender-based violence conference. We're going to be asking, I suppose, as a country, what strides have been made since that GBV plan was put into place a few years ago. You cover a lot of these stories, and very often it's to witness the heartbreak of communities and a reactive approach by police as opposed to a proactive approach? Would you say that we are not making enough progress? What are the issues that you would like to see ventilated at a conference that starts tomorrow?
Sally, speaking of just the heartbreak that we hear on these stories on, of course, an almost daily basis now. For example, I was speaking to the sex workers that went out in their dozens to court. One of them told me that she herself was once raped. You know how often some of these clients force themselves onto these women without even wanting to give them money. When she went to the police station to go and report it was sad to find out. In fact, telling us earlier on when I was with my colleague Mbundo early hours of the morning, she said that the police then told her, how many men have you slept with? Like, they disregarded her. They didn't take that case seriously. You'd remember also in the feature that we also made extensively around this particular incident and some of the shocking stories we heard from the sex workers on the street. It's not that they haven't been reporting these cases and the missing ladies, because you'd understand that they say that every Monday, one of them would go missing because they'd be taken on the Sunday. Some of the traits that they picked up in the last 3 months as these sex workers went missing. So there were efforts on the ground, Sally, to go and report these cases to the police, but they weren't taken seriously by police. So one of the crucial things that really need to be tackled is the stance of the police and them taking then the GBV cases quite seriously, because it's quite shocking. Not only sex workers' plights, for example, you go on the ordinary GBV cases and they plights where they get told to go resolve their issues with their husbands, for example, or their partners. So it's just shocking what happens at these police stations, and more often than not, it's the men that aren't really accepting them and opening the cases that are really key to tackling GBV.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing us the latest on that case, Aviwe Mtila, and your thoughts as well on that issue around gender-based violence. Of course, the Finance Minister telling us last week that he'd made room in the budget for an extra 15,000 police officers to be trained up and recruited into the police force in the next 3 years. But of course, they have to be properly trained and they have to be aware of issues around domestic violence, around the reality that a sex worker can be raped. And those are important issues, that a woman who has the bravery to come to a police station after being assaulted is treated fairly and kindly.